Then fell the mournful Mother Stone, and then came the invader, bewitched by the Mother's song. The Scots, defiant, proud and braver, gathered to reclaim their land's fame. And they would fight the sorrow while fell the tears of metal.
Grab your sword and rally the clans, because today we are heading into the chaotic battlefields of Tears of Metal. This roguelite hack-and-slash adventure sends you across an occupied Scottish island, either alone or with up to 3 friends, to push back the invaders and protect the mysterious Mother Dragonstone. The premise certainly has personality, leading Scottish warriors into enormous battles, developing your settlement, and strengthening your army between campaigns could have created a distinctive experience. However, the story and setting remain mostly in the background. The island feels more like a collection of combat arenas than a homeland we genuinely care about reclaiming, while the soldiers following us behave more like a temporary ability than a convincing battalion. There's enough flavor to establish the theme, but not enough to make the journey memorable. Its visual presentation produces a similarly mixed result. Tears of Metal is not an ugly title, and watching large groups clash can initially be impressive. The problems begin once enemies, archers, elite units, attack effects, and area indicators appear together. Red warning circles cover the ground. Smaller opponents block the player, and important attacks disappear beneath the chaos. Reading the battlefield becomes unnecessarily difficult, turning what should be spectacular mass combat into a confusing collection of effects. At first, the combat appears to contain everything a satisfying arena fighter needs. There are sword combinations, dodges, parries, different heroes, artifacts, and permanent improvements. Unfortunately, many of these mechanics feel underdeveloped. The most basic sword sequence is often more efficient than the longer combos, which deal less practical damage while locking the character into extended animations. This removes much of the incentive to experiment with the available moveset. Parrying can feel satisfying when it works, but crowded encounters rarely give the mechanic enough room to shine. While trying to read one enemy's delayed attack, you may also be surrounded by smaller units, targeted by distant archers, and forced to escape multiple area attacks. Dodging has its own limitations, including a cooldown on the default character. Instead of carefully switching between attacks, parries, and evasive moves, much of the combat becomes an attempt to survive everything being thrown at you simultaneously. The bosses are another weak point. Encounters rely too heavily on inflated health bars, temporary invulnerability, large area attacks, and extended periods of chasing the target around the arena. The first bosses may require patience, but they rarely demand interesting strategies. Waiting for an opening and slowly reducing a huge health bar creates a longer fight, not necessarily a better one. Progression should provide the motivation to begin another campaign, yet the rewards rarely transform the experience. Tears of Metal advertises more than 100 artifacts, several playable heroes, soldier development, settlement expansion, and new challenges. In practice, many rewards offer minor percentage increases rather than abilities capable of creating distinctive builds. Resources are earned slowly, permanent improvements become expensive, and repetition begins to feel mandatory. This also creates an unpleasant decision during campaigns. Currency used for chests may be needed for healing, but the upgrades inside those chests are not always valuable enough to justify the risk. A strong roguelite makes each choice exciting by offering combinations that significantly alter the player's strategy. Here, many decisions amount to choosing between a small statistical increase and saving enough currency to recover from the next overwhelming encounter. Cooperative play can make the chaos more entertaining, particularly with a group of friends. Sharing the battlefield with other players gives the campaign more energy, but it does not remove the slow progression, repetitive structure, or visibility problems. Players who enjoy grinding for incremental upgrades and clearing enormous waves may find more value here than we did. Tears of Metal is not a complete disaster. Its systems function, its central idea has potential, and occasional battles can be enjoyable. The issue is that nothing truly stands out. The atmosphere never fully captures us. The visuals struggle to communicate the action, and the combat loses its appeal long before the progression provides a convincing reason to continue. We could play it for a few hours, but once we stopped, we had no desire to return. Atmosphere, 1 out of 3. Graphics, 1 out of 3. Gameplay, 1 out of 3. Tears of Metal receives a final score of 3 out of 10. We cannot recommend it in its current form, although players who specifically enjoy chaotic horde combat and lengthy progression systems may feel differently. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the video.
This position is ours! These lot won't trouble us again. We must break their ranks! Pity their widows! forces are gathering ahead! Take them down! That's how we do battle! In fear of our might! That's how we do battle! We must break the ranks! Tonight, we drink to victory! Press onward! harvest. The cower in fear of our lord. Fear in their eyes. Finish this! Numbers mean nothing. We prevail. That's how we do battle. Those owls! Chase them down! They cower in fear of our might! You should turn heel and run. You're no match for our blades. How does it feel? Like 1,000 blades piercing your back. You will eat like kings tonight.